One night, I remember, there was bombing all over London, and the area wardens would not permit you on the street. You had to be undercover somewhere. And we kept dodging from doorway to doorway, so to speak, to try and get to the railway station. And then when we got there, there were no trains, and the trucks had been bombed. It was hopeless. You couldn't get home. Quite often, you wouldn't be able to go home for days on end. So you would have to either find a hotel with a room or something, or stay in the waiting room of the station and hope you weren't bombed. Quite a nightmare. And being young, I guess, one wasn't so upset as older people with children. You know, it was very devastating if you lost your kids in the bombing, and even the air raid shelters were bombed as well. People used to start lining up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to go down into the underground and spend their night. People would take their bedding and their buggies with their babies and all the small children, and they would take a small portion of the platform and put down their blankets, and they just left enough room on the edge of the platform for passengers to get onto the trains and off. It was a different world altogether then, I can tell you. When my job kind of finished for the summer holidays, because I worked at the university, I went off and got this job, this summer job at the hotel on the coast. But before long I decided that I would rather try and work in London and be near to Peter. So this is what I did. I found a job at the hospital, the London hospital, and I used to then see Peter, and we used to have fun together. And my friend Faye was a friend of Peter's, and we all three used to go off at the weekends, nutting along the lanes and going and seeing historical places. And that was a nice kind of life. Peter, I think, was home on leave for a short vacation. I'm sure he was in the army, and he still had his German name. And I think we were already married. But on his passport it had born in Berlin, you see, so I think we were in Wales at the time, and the married name was Herman, and he had been told that he could change his name through army records, but we had to decide what name. Well, we didn't want to change the capital H from Herman, you know, H from Herman. We wanted to find a name that began with an H. So we were going through Harrods and Huntsman and all kinds of names with H. And we had been listening to For Whom the Bell Tolls by Hemingway. And we liked the story very much. There had been also a movie made of it, and we had liked the movie very much too. So I had said, well, why don't we have Hemingway? And he said, yes, I think that's a very good idea. So that's how we became Hemingway. This one day, the Secret Service came to the house and picked up Peter and put him in a camp in England because he was supposed to be an enemy alien. Just because he was alien, he was an enemy alien, and anyone who was not born in England was pushed into a camp. And finally they sent all these prisoners over to Canada, and they spent a whole year on the Mount of Abraham, or whatever it's called, outside of Ottawa, or no, outside of Montreal. There was a camp there. I think the camp still exists, but as some resort or holiday home for children or something. But anyway, this is where Peter spent a whole year of his life as a prisoner of war, and he was treated very well. They were supposed to wear some special garb being prisoners, but he absolutely refused, and he wore the same suit that he'd been arrested in, and until it was just about dropping off of him. And eventually the prisoners of war in this camp were offered amnesty if they would join the Pioneer Corps, which was under British jurisdiction, and they could go back and fight for Britain. And he did. Peter volunteered, but not too many others did, because they preferred to stay out of the war. But Peter wanted to come back because of me, and he had a fondness for Britain and London, especially in those days. And when he got back, we immediately got married. And I got pregnant with Leslie, and from then on, Peter was in the army, but in Europe. I was the one to find out where they had sent him and all the other prisoners, because everything was hush-hush, and it was only through my diligence that I found out where they were and gave out the information to others. And by that time, he had been sent to Canada as a prisoner of war, and we corresponded, but everything had to be censored. And of course, he said he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me, because I had been so good to him in sending him parcels, looking after his grandmother, looking after his things that were all left, behind when he was interned. And by the way, all those things were bombed, and so he never did see anything again. Well, I think I was always fearless as far as bodily safety was concerned. I think I was always fearless because, the same thing happens today. I'm not that timid. Through the ages, things have been improving, and so they will keep on improving, and one day it will be superb, and we will think how old-fashioned everything was at this stage.